And it's funny because ever since the Zoom did that, where it tells you, oh, recording in process, now I'm like, now I
wait
think to hear it. I don't know. I love it. Take two. So my thing. Okay, whatever. I'm going to start now. Thank you so much, Stacy, for joining us today on the Bold and Boss app. We're so excited to learn about your journey and about your business today. Super exciting.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat too.
Yeah, no, I was looking forward to it because we haven't had anything like this yet on the podcast. So I think this is obviously something that I think a lot of businesses should be aware of, and especially Tampa Bay. You taught me a lot in our initial conversation, just about Tampa Bay and being a military spouse community. So I want to dig into a little bit more of that and hear about your journey. So you are a business owner and a military spouse.
That's right? Correct. Yep. My husband is retired now from the military after 27 years with the Army.
Wow. So how long have you now been in Tampa Bay?
We've actually been here 6 years. It feels like 6 months. Sometimes it feels like 60 years sometimes too, but very proud and excited, lifelong Tampanians going forward. So we've retired here. We're going to stay here.
Awesome. That's good to hear because we're both pretty much Tampa natives. I was born and raised here, and Ashley is pretty much Tampa native. So it's good to hear people coming to the area and liking it so much that they're staying. So, up until this point, you had to move around a lot, obviously change jobs a lot. How is that? I feel like that would be very challenging, trying to keep a job moving around so much.
It's extraordinarily challenging. In fact, it's almost impossible. But in 27 years together with my husband, him being in the military, we moved 14 times, and that's not within the same community. It's from state to state, oftentimes from coast to coast. So 14 times in 27 years, you have to quit a job if you had one and have to kind of reinvent the wheel at the next place. So my story is not that different from other military spouses, but I have been unemployed or underemployed for most of my adult life. And so extremely challenging for sure.
Stacy, when you say underemployed, I'm assuming you're meaning like a role that you're have already surpassed before in your experience. Is that what you're referring to?
It is seniority, so to speak. So I have a master's in business administration. I've had that since I was a young woman, and have had to turn down jobs that I was qualified for, but either couldn't take it because we were moving or so forth. And sometimes you're in places that just don't have the availability for what I am able to do competence-wise. So you take something just to have an income, just to stay busy. I've changed industries because availability isn't always what I want and need. And it can take quite a bit of time to find the right position. And sometimes you just don't have the time. And oh, by the way, you're moving again. So that's it exactly.
How long have you been in each place? Was it like traditionally like a year? Was it 6 months? Was it all over the place?
It ranged from 6 months to, I think, 4 years was our longest time in one place. But 14 moves in 27 years, you do the math, it's moving pretty frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of one of my questions for you, because I think a lot of candidates nowadays deal with maybe not the military part, but the looking like you're a job hopper, right? And really not knowing how to express why you had to move on. So, I mean, did you put something special on your resume to show why you left? Or I'm sure the conversations and the interviews were really interesting. You probably were repeating yourself a lot.
For sure. That's actually very common among military spouses is, how do we fill in those gaps? I say a lot of times that if you read my resume, it looks like I'm a drunken sailor because I'm over here in this industry, and I'm over there in that industry. And I filled in the gaps, if you will, through volunteering. I'm a professional volunteer. That helps to, increase your skills, makes your resume look more full, and fills in, especially those leadership type roles. But that's very common conversation. And frankly, hiring managers don't always know, I might even say don't often know, how to interpret a veteran resume or a military spouse resume, because while they may appreciate your service out of patriotism, or even if they understand that, it's hard to translate the soft skills that a military spouse brings to the table when we don't necessarily have the paid results from those opportunities.
Yeah, I think being a military spouse, you have to be very resilient. You have to be able to, handle change. And I feel like those are all great qualities for someone hiring, for any employee. There's so many qualities that you've had to go through by being a military spouse or in the military, moving around a lot, that you could bring to the table, differently than a normal civilian.
I think so. Yes. Military spouses, like you said, they're resilient. They're also loyal. That's something that is different maybe than other employees, because we're so grateful to get the job, to get that opportunity, that we're willing to just, do it for any amount of money forever, if it's a good working relationship. So definitely a lot of skills come from moving all the time, dealing, problem solvers. I can promise you, military spouses are the best problem solvers on the planet, because when you move to a place and you don't know that community, and you don't know how to turn on your electricity, and your household goods get delivered upside down, and you've got to find a way to feed your family, we're problem solvers. And that's what all hiring managers are looking for. It's just a matter of the military spouse communicating that message, and the hiring manager being open to understanding and appreciating the opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Are there certain initiatives or benefits that a company gets by hiring? I know there's veteran programs, but military spouse programs that they can from?
Yeah, they're veteran programs have been established for some time, and military spouses have kind of followed on the coattails of that initiative from several years ago. And there are opportunities now through a couple of different things that we have here in Tampa Bay that allow businesses, small businesses, large businesses, to be a part of the conversation in hiring military spouses. I can't tell you how many hiring managers that have jumped into this and have decided, okay, I'm going to hire a military spouse, how grateful they are, how valuable they feel like military spouses are as employees. And so the more employers that we can get involved in understanding and sharing in their teams the value of military spouses, they often find that it's not their patriotic duty to hire a military spouse, but it is good business sense. And so definitely there's some opportunities, especially in Tampa Bay.
No, that's great. And I think, companies need to be aware of that. I think it's a good initiative to get involved with and just to be aware of. Especially here in Tampa, we have MacDill right there. So we see a lot of this here.
MacDill is actually unique as far as military service is concerned, because we have 2 global commands here, which means we're a little top heavy. We have 38 general officers that serve out of MacDill, and some of the senior officers that would be the leader of the pack at another organization, full bird colonels, for example, they're a dime a dozen. And so it's senior leaders that are here in MacDill mostly, and that means they're bringing spouses who are likely senior leaders as well. My husband, in a leadership role, would often yield to me being in a volunteer leadership role for the other spouses, for the community, for the military base and the unit there. So MacDill is just a unique opportunity.
Can you share with us some of the maybe tips that you've learned from interviewing and sharing, like how you're job hoppy, or how you can, maybe not even the job hoppingness, right? But maybe like your skills, right? All over the board, how you can articulate to each hiring manager what they need to hear. Is there like some sort of, not catch all, but like some sort of tip that you can share with people who maybe are going through the same thing? Like, how do you communicate your skills to them? And do you have like multiple resumes too? You might have created multiple ones just based on the roles that you see in the area that are available.
Definitely. And I'm going to go back to what I said a few minutes ago, right? The bottom line, message that I want to communicate is it's not your patriotic duty to hire a military spouse. It's good business sense. And I can prove that out by sharing the soft skills and the stories behind how I, attained those soft skills, became excel at them. Mm-hmm. Things like leadership and problem solving that we mentioned earlier. So it's a conversation that is easier for me to have now because I value the hiring managers and the organizations that value what I bring to the table. If I can't communicate that message, they don't understand what I'm trying to say, then I probably don't want to work there anyway. Right. But that's a hard place to come to, especially if you're a young military spouse. You need that income to, support your family. It's harder to say thanks, but no thanks. I'm not sure that I even want to work for you. It goes back to, again, what I said earlier, being grateful that you have a job offer to do anything, even if it's below your salary, below your education and skills level. But that definitely you have to embrace the soft skill side as opposed to what the resume is communicating, years of experience doing X, Y, and Z for X number of dollars. So that's the biggest difference, I think, in that message.
Right. Maybe they can find like whatever soft skill that they're looking for, pull in some of those experiences that you've had, like going into a completely new city and trying to turn on the electric. Maybe it correlates with that soft skill. And maybe you can if you just communicate, right, and share those pieces with them, maybe that would be enough.
It is. And again, the hiring manager has to be open to hearing it. And I have to be confident in my communicating the value that I can add to the organization.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that companies allowing their employees to work remotely more now, especially in the past year and a half, has helped with that unemployment piece? And whenever you move, now you're able to keep jobs longer?
100%. Military spouses were seeking remote employment opportunities before COVID, and was extremely challenging because those opportunities generally were customer service on the phone. And so if you're highly educated and highly skilled, that's maybe not the right fit. And that goes to that underemployment part that you mentioned earlier. So yes, remote work, now that it's more readily acceptable because of COVID, because we've all had to make this adjustment, is a wonderful thing for military spouses. Finding those opportunities, finding those organizations that are willing to continue those remote opportunities is going to be a wonderful thing to help military spouses in their success professionally.
Is that kind of what got you into the financial side of things, is, trying to help other families or women in similar situations kind of budget? Or like, how did you start Bright Investments? Like, how did that come to fruition?
So it's an interesting story. I mentioned earlier, I have my MBA and I got it at Auburn University. And someone that I got my MBA with was working on Wall Street and had, many years in the finance industry. And his goal was to start an investment management firm. And he invited me to be his partner. We actually have 2 other partners as well, because he could understand the value that I brought to the table that I couldn't communicate on a resume. And so in all truthfulness, the finance industry, while I love finance, I love corporate finance, what I don't love is how the industry is portrayed and continues to be portrayed in a negative light. So I was hesitant to become a financial advisor because I didn't trust financial advisors. And so I set some limitations on how I wanted to do that. And that led me to getting my CFP, which is I'm a certified financial planner. So the benefit is that I have worked remotely for the firm this whole time, so 5 years. And, so that fits into that military spouse category. My husband's retired now. We have 4 offices, so I can still travel as needed. But again, with COVID, clients are more accepting of video calls and phone calls than they were previously. But it was that opportunity, someone that could see the skills and talent that I could bring to the table in a way that would allow me to do what I wanted to do. And what I've done my whole adult life is take care of families, take care of, especially women, because there's no one that understands better feeling insecure in my own future financial security than a military spouse. I've always had to rely on my spouse's income for paying the bills because of all of the job problems that I've had along the way. And extrapolate that, I also have had to rely on his retirement saving for us, because as I'm unemployed or underemployed, I'm not able to contribute to a workplace retirement plan. So my financial security was insecurity. And so I know that better than anyone else, maybe. And so I know a lot of women feel the same way, that they are, they don't feel secure about their future, financial life, whether it's 5 years down the road or retirement, whatever it is. And so I love working with those women and those families that want to gain more confidence in that. And I can empathize in a way I think that is unique to the industry.
No, I love that. I feel like your journey and your passion, bringing you to the business, I mean, that speaks volumes, rather than someone who just, decided they just wanted to get in the industry. And
Right.
yeah, you have that passion and that experience behind it from having been there and struggled with that. So.
And really, I love all your articles. I know I was saying this kind of off camera before, but I love all the articles that you've written that are structured for women and Gen Z. And I was reading through them. I think that they're very, very helpful. And I love all the tips that you give, because you just try to, reach out in different ways, right? That aren't, I think, typical, right, for a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for those kind words. It's been a fun journey. Like I said, the financial services industry, I don't think does itself any favors in some of the ways that it's works. But our firm is fee-only fiduciary, because that's how we feel the most comfortable. That level of integrity is something that's very important to me and to the firm. So asking for business, I'm not a salesperson. I don't have any products to sell, and sales is not a comfortable place for me. But I do have skills in training and education, and the desire to help people and the empathy to understand that lack of confidence in your future financial security. So that's how I've started communicating that message to my prospective clients, is I understand this. Here's some information so that you can feel more confident. Sometimes people, women, men, doesn't matter, don't feel confident and also don't have the time or energy to want to deal with finances. It's not always everybody's fun thing to do. They'd rather be out on the beach or 400 other things probably. So that allows for them to delegate that to someone that they can trust and have confidence in going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like what you said on the sales piece, because I feel the same way. Like Ashley and I were both on the same page. I don't really like that word salesperson because it's really more about building relationships and helping people like in our world. I feel like if you're passionate about that and you're true to yourself and really passionate about what you do, then that's the sales. Like you're not selling people on, something.
Right. Yeah. I don't have any products to sell. A lot of financial services companies do. They have, you want to invest with them, here's these 10 things that you can invest in. And that's not how we're structured, because that's not a comfortable place for me. And that's, I think there's more integrity in not having just the 10 products or whatever the number is that I can provide advice or planning or, whatever it is, based on my education, my skills, my experience. But it comes from a place, that I've been, that I sometimes still am in, lacking confidence in my own financial security. So sharing that message is very important to me. And you're right, I am passionate about helping people take care of that in whatever ways they need help with.
Mm-hmm. And we'll include some of those links too in our show notes and on the bottom, so that way people can have access to those and see those as well, because they are great articles.
Yeah, they are. And actually, I was going to ask you, one of your articles was really focused on women and how women themselves can bridge the gap in the really just being underpaid, right? In that piece. And I wrote down some of your tips because I thought they're great tips. Like the first one is ask for a raise or a promotion. And it sounds so simple, but I think as women, or just in general, if people feel underpaid, I don't think that they necessarily ask for a raise or ask for that next step. They just kind of expect it to be handed to them, when really you need to take hold of your future.
And that's part of the communication difference, right? If women are assertive, they're said, no, you're being too aggressive. Well, no, I'm being assertive. And if a man was doing the same thing, you would think, go you. But it's just different. It's the psychology of gender and the psychology of money. It's not any different. So yeah, women, there's lots of statistics that say women generally won't ask for a raise or a promotion unless they're 100% confident that they have everything that they need to do that. Whereas a man would apply for that raise or promotion with maybe only 60 or 70% of the skills and things that they need. And so it's about rolling the dice and having the confidence and putting yourself out there. Generally, it's a little more challenging for women. And so, yes, that's a simple tip and recommendation, but it's not as simple to execute.
Right.
And, that's where the challenge is. But sometimes you just need the confidence of someone saying, just do it. What's the worst that can happen? You don't get that raise or promotion. But what's the best that can happen if you put yourself out there and do it? You get it. And so, there's that gender wage gap. Women make 82 cents for every dollar that a man makes. And those numbers become extraordinary when you look at it from a race perspective as well as gender. And as I shared with my personal story, that, retirement and future financial security, it just compounds. If you're only making 82 cents and you have to take time off because you move as a military spouse, or you move with whatever other job that your spouse has, and you lose those opportunities to contribute to your future financial security, your workplace retirement plans, So that 18-cent gap just keeps growing and growing and growing to create this huge gap called the gender wealth gap. And what's frightening about that is women generally outlive men, so they actually need more money than men do because they have more years to continue to, pay the bills.
So women should actually get paid more than men.
Yes, 100%.
That's what I heard.
I'm with you. 100%.
So what tips can you give women in either the business world or if they're a military spouse? Like, what would you say is like, the top, I guess you can separate those, like a business woman who wants to ask for that raise or whatever, or to a military spouse, trying to find a job. What tips would you give them to help, get progress in their career, I should say?
Sure. I think either side, it takes the confidence to, take that risky step to apply for a job that might be outside of what you're doing currently, but I bet you could knock out of the park if you just could get a chance. Or a military spouse. I think at the bottom line, it takes confidence. And so how do you get confidence? It can be your support system, your circle of influence. It can just be, what I said earlier, roll the dice. What's the worst that can happen if you don't? I'm going to refer to a thing that's often in financial publications about lattes, right? You go to Starbucks or whatever coffee shop and there's a $5 latte, and the message, which I think affects women more so, is don't buy the latte for $5. You could take that $5 and invest it and you'd be much better off. I have the different approach, which is if the latte is going to give you the energy boost because of the caffeine or just the joy of a treat for the day, it's going to help you knock it out of the park in whatever you're doing during the day, then spend those $5 because you're investing in yourself. And so that would be my recommendation. Not that everybody goes and gets a latte, but that you invest in yourself.
I love that. I am right there with you. I feel like, hey, if you want to do this or do that, I mean, obviously you have to, be within your means. You can't be crazy about it and go buy like a vehicle or whatever. But I think you should invest in yourself because it's going to make you happier and more confident. And you need to be those things in order to, get that next step and to move forward.
I agree. Yeah. It's not necessarily the designer handbag. We are only talking about the $5 latte. If the designer handbag helps you in an interview, get that job because they think you're something. I don't know, but definitely, and it's a very common conversation you've probably heard. Don't buy the $5 latte. You could do better things with your money than that. But I really truly believe, when I spend $5 on latte, it's because I need the energy to continue doing something that I need to do to earn my salary, or it's going to give me enough joy, which fills my tank to continue doing whatever it is I'm doing. It's very important in my perspective.
Right. And I personally think I know a lot of military spouses need those roles, to bring in the income when they are, finally in a location that they can stay at for maybe 6 months to whatever, 4 years. But I also want them to know that they should also know their value too. Like, don't settle. But I think it's maybe helpful to know what the market conditions are. Like currently right now, it's a candidate market. So for those military spouses that are looking for a role, certainly don't settle, where you could find a role that is certainly at your value and at your skill level. But of course, if the market is the other way, where there's just a flood of candidates, then that's a different story. I think they might have to, kind of bend and flex there, but knowing the market might be helpful as well.
And I think in Tampa Bay, something that is, again, unique here, we have so many new small businesses and, new ventures. And I think that's the perfect fit for the military spouse because they're looking for someone that has multiple skills, right? They only want to hire one person to maybe wear 8 different hats. So those small businesses are the perfect fit for the military spouse and his or her problem-solving skills and communication skills. So that's a really great opportunity. Not to say that the Fortune 500 companies don't have those opportunities too, but again, they're generally looking for someone that's maybe going to do customer service or something that is below the education and skill level of many military spouses who also, I mentioned volunteering to fill in those gaps. But we've also gone back to school, and we're like some really highly educated people because, we can't get a job. Let me get another degree or another certificate. So, but definitely in Tampa Bay, that has been my perspective, that the small businesses and the military spouses are the perfect fit for one another.
No, that's a great point. We just had Jill and Jeremy on from the Tampa Bay Tech, and getting involved in organizations like that, or Leadership Tampa, which I know that you just got involved in. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You can meet people and, meet other business professionals by getting involved and volunteering, just to meet people. And then Tampa Bay is a great startup community, which I think is awesome. I'm excited about that too. But yeah, just getting out and meeting people and the startup idea is a great point.
Yeah, thank you.
But I don't want to keep you too long. I know your time is valuable, Stacy. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story with us today.
Yeah, it was so great talking with you. And we're going to post the brightinvestmentsllc.com so everyone can go and check out your articles and help themselves. And I hope this was helpful for our listeners. And until next time, live bold and boss up.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. Appreciate it. And I hope to chat with you again soon.